Our next speaker is our neighbor, Elizabeth Dubose, coming up from the western part of El Dorado County. She's an activist, an organizer, and a political leader. Come on up, Lizzie. Hello, everybody. Before I get, can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. So before I get started, I just wanted to give everyone a chance to look around and see who you're sitting next to, who's behind you, who's in front of you, because these are the people who are here to help you. These are the people that are going to love you. These are the people who are going to support you, regardless of your religion, what you look like on the outside, all of that stuff. These are the people that we need. So just know that when you come to protests and different events like this for Black Lives Matter, and for events for human equality, that you get everyone's names and their contact information and their email addresses and their phone numbers, because these are the people that we need to carry with us and bring us to where we're trying to go. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Dubose. Some people call me Lizzie. I live in Pollock Pines, which is right 15 minutes up Highway 50 from Placerville. I've lived in the area for 15 years. I started with this not really knowing what I was getting into. I was like many of you who woke up one day, saw the news with George Floyd, and my jaw dropped, my heart dropped. I didn't really know what to do. All I kind of did was be angry, and I was emotional, and I was crying, and I was super sad. I didn't really know. But, you know, the only thing that I knew what to do was to get out here and to be active. And even prior to that and before that, with Ahmaud Arbery, you know, I heard about his story as well. And I'm also someone who runs around my neighborhood, a predominantly white neighborhood. And when I saw that he was pretty much gunned down and hunted down for the color of his skin, I stopped running. When I saw that George Floyd couldn't breathe, I stopped breathing. When I saw that Breonna Taylor was shot in her home while she was asleep, I felt like I couldn't sleep either, you know. And when there was another female activist who lived in Florida, and she was an activist for Black Lives Matter and human rights and female rights and women's rights, and she was also she also died not by the hands of the police, but under like a sexual harassment situation. And with that too, that made me feel like I had to hide, because I started being an activist and I started organizing, and I felt like my life was at stake. And then I was seeing other Black women, 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 21-year-olds, who would be stopped at their stoplights, and people would drive past them and throw acid in their faces and burn them in their cars. And I felt like I couldn't do what I wanted to do, because I knew that there were people out there who were going to hurt me just because I looked the way I look. But I'm kind of here to tell people that you can still do what you want to do, and to not be afraid, and to not live in fear, because fear is the enemy. So once we get past the fear, we can get to the light of what we're trying to seek, and we can get past our trauma, and we can start healing. So so when we first started all of our activism in Placerville, the El Dorado Progressives, they wanted to do a peaceful protest at our courthouse. And the people of Placerville, not everybody, but the people of Placerville, when they heard of this, they jumped on Facebook and they started saying, let's get our good old boys, let's get our big trucks, let's burn coal on the protesters, let's defend our town, let's defend our property, let's get our motorcycle gangs, and let's be there. And I immediately was offended, because to them, they thought that protesting peacefully meant outsiders coming in to burn, to loot, to murder, to riot, to cause destruction, to break buildings, to you know, wreak havoc, and that's not the case. And so I wanted to show myself and be like a living proof of someone who can do peaceful protests in a small town, and in a small town that is predominantly white. And so, thank you. And so what I did was, me and like two 2, 3, maybe 5 friends went and we sat outside with our Black Lives Matter signs. And at first, it was just my first 2 friends, and they were white, and they had their Black Lives Matter sign. And when they had it out, people were booing them and kind of doing like a thumbs down, saying no. And so they were immediately afraid, but they still wanted to be there and to stick up for people like me, because Black Lives Matter. And so she called me and said, Lizzie, you know, I'm really scared. I want to be here. I want to support you, but I'm not getting a lot of good feedback. So I said, okay. And I went out there and I sat with her and I held that sign. And I think people were still kind of giving us weird, you know, because they weren't sure. And this was the same day that Placerville boarded up all of their small town businesses because they thought that it was going to be a looting situation, which it wasn't. And so, that first day we were out there, we got really good feedback. Unfortunately, maybe 30 minutes before the end of the night, a truck drove by. He looked at me in my eyes and he called me the N-word, laughed, and went his way. And you know, it was hard to hear, but that's what I'm here for. I mean, that's not why I'm here, but I'm here to stick up for myself and to, you know, support me and support others like me, who have the same ideas as I do. And shortly after that, another man in a motorcycle came by and he revved his engine. He told me that the town was called Hangtown for a reason, and looked at me and told me to go home, and revved his engine and pretty much was just being rude. And after that, you know, I kind of had enough. I got in my car, drove home, cried all the way home, called my roommate, told her what had happened, and I was scared because I was just like, that was my first time being out there. And that man, one man called me the N-word, and another man told me that it was called Hangtown for a reason. So I just want to know what that reason is and what you're going to do. So we ended up catching the guy in the motorcycle on camera, and we posted that on social media platforms. It got thousands of views, and the next day I went back out there, same spot, and there's 50 of us. And then the next day we went from the courthouse, and there was about 150 to 200 of us. And so that was awesome. I didn't think that I was going to receive that type of support in Hangtown, Old Hangtown, in Placerville. I really didn't think so. But you know, after that, we continued to protest. I continued doing smaller protests weekly, just to keep the motivation up and to let people know that this is not a movement and that this is a moment. Or no, I'm sorry. This is a movement. It is not a moment. And so my whole purpose is I wanted to start small in Placerville and kind of work my way up. And so I've been protesting since the end of June. Now it's, September, and I finally made it to South Lake, so I'm working my way. And I love South Lake Tahoe. I come up here to visit all the time. I'm here every 4th of July. I'm almost here every New Year's Eve. This is my second, you know, I feel like it's my second home. And so I feel like it's important for the people to know that the people in Placerville, we hear you. And here in South Lake Tahoe, we hear Placerville. And so eventually, we will all be able to hear everybody, and all of our voices will be heard, and everyone will know that we all matter. Because a lot of people still keep telling me all lives matter. And I tell them that all lives cannot matter until Black lives matter, until my life matters, until someone's sister's life matters, until someone's mother's life matters. And I really thought that after the death of George Floyd, that it would have woken up enough people to hopefully try to prevent more Black lives from dying. But as she said before, there's been 53. And so that breaks my heart, you know, and I feel like it's easy to feel discouraged, but we have to go past that, and we have to still fight. We have to still stand up. We have to still put our fists up and say Black Lives Matter. We still need to practice anti-racism. We still need to correct those who need to be corrected. And even when I first got here today, I wrote on this board, justice is what love looks like in public. And this is what love looks like in public. This is us representing justice. This is us representing equality. This is us representing humankind and love for one another and loving our neighbors. And, you know, I want everyone to know that you're not alone, whether it's mental health, whether it's education, whether it's struggling as a single parent, whether it's anything, you're not alone. I will always be here. We will always be here. We've all got each other's back, and that's the most important thing. Also, too, I want to touch on very lightly that right now, one of my biggest struggles in Placerville is dealing with the fact that it is still called Old Hangtown, and the fact that we still have an effigy of, they call him George, hanging in front of the old ice cream parlor. And we are advocating to lose the news, because their argument is that is a part of their history. And trust me, I understand the history. Little do they know that the history of lynching was stolen from us, Black people, African Americans, who were stolen from our own land. So if they want to represent that as their history, they need to understand that they need to know that that is still a part of my life. And if they don't know that, then they're going to keep, keeping it up and saying that it's only their history and it's a part of the gold rush, and they need to keep it. And I understand that. I understand the gold rush. I understand the history. I really do. But this, like we've been saying, it's 2020. It's time to remove it. The lynch is not good to have it represent a whole town as a whole, where most of us don't feel like we want to be represented that way. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to advocate right now for Placerville, is to lose the noose, because it's just not right. I don't like it. It's disrespectful to me, lose the noose. And Black Lives Matter in El Dorado County and Placerville, all over in South Lake Tahoe, here with me, here with you, yesterday, tomorrow, today. It'll always matter. Black lives will always matter. And all of you guys will always matter to me too. So thank you so much for having me here. And yeah, thank you.